Hi, I'm Bob Trask. Thanks for being with me. Today we're going to talk about how thoughts change beingness, how your thinking actually changes who you are. How can he how can thinking become a hindrance, an actual wall that prevents us from knowing the truths of nature and of reality, the truths in our lives? How can thinking do that? Oh, we always thought thinking was that wonderful thing that led us forward, not that led us backwards. Author Thomas M. Sterner says that no few people are really aware of their thoughts. Their minds run all over the place without their permission, and they go along for the ride unknowingly and without making a choice. That's the way thinking is. It's automatic for almost all of us. Today, we're going to take a look at getting everything we need and want and actually deserve from life by changing the way we think. And it's going to be a little bit of a discipline, yeah, but it's going to be worth it. When we do research into thinking, we find that thinking itself, it can be a trap. It can be a trap that keeps us from the successes that we so often want. For 2,500 years, 2,500 years, monks and meditators have been thinking about thinking. And that sets them apart from the rest of us because they don't get locked into their thinking. They stay objective. They stay aside from their thinking, looking at their thinking rather than being their thinking. In other words, their thinking doesn't become their identities. When we were babies, our minds were very flexible. And as we grew older, they became more and more fixed in their ways. They became tough, hardened. They subscribed to the patterns that we've instilled in them over the years. In other words, what we've learned in the years we've been around is that each of us have a pattern of thinking that represents us. In fact, it represents us so well, we think it's who we are. So when you were a little kid and you were growing up, you you incurred a lot of different things, a lot of different people, a lot of different experiences and events, some of them positive, some of them negative. And out of all of those, you kind of learned how to survive emotionally, mentally, and physically, of course, but emotionally. And one of the ways you learned how to survive is to replicate what worked for you before. But that replication is a trap. It's a stuckness. There was a test done once with little kittens. They were put in a cage and there were vertical bars in the cage. And after they were in that cage for a long, long time, they were released from the cage. Well, at least the bars were taken out, but they couldn't get past where they saw those bars had been. They couldn't get past those. It took forever for them to finally get past where they thought those bars had been. We're like that. Our thinking traps us. Our old ideas, our old opinions, our old beliefs about stuff keep us from being all that we can be. We've all heard about IQ, the intelligent quotient, and EQ, a measure of emotion. But the highest form of intelligence is neither of those. It's metacognition. Metacognition is the ability to objectively observe our thoughts and to take charge of our thoughts in order to control our minds. In metacognition, we don't become our thoughts or our beliefs. We wake up and stop thinking automatically. The goal of metacognition is to think as we want, when we want, as we want, and to even stop thinking when thinking doesn't serve us. Metacognition is not primarily thinking, it's awareness. It's awareness. It's awareness. From that objective awareness comes a new thought, a new way of thinking. Now, why would you care? Really, why would you care? Your life's going along just fine. My life's going along just fine. Why do we all of a sudden have this guy telling us we should change our thinking or change how we're thinking? Because we're here for a purpose. You're here for a purpose. I'm here for a purpose. And whatever that purpose is, it can't be solved. It can't be reached. It can't be attained unless we are flexible, unless we are moving with time. And we can't be moving with time if we're still thinking like we did when we were 10 years old. If we still have ideas and thoughts that when we were 20 years old. Our idea about relationships has to do with how our relationships were in our family, or our first love, or our boyfriend or girlfriend, or a pal, or a sports team, or a coach, or a teacher, or a boss, or a coworker. All those people influence us and affect us, and influence and affect our thinking. And that can be really beneficial because it teaches us. We learn by each of those events. We grow. From every person you ever met, you learned and you grew and you saw new realities. But that has to stay flexible. We have to be able to hold that at an arm's length. We have to be able to see that, not be that. Author Ora Nodrich reminds us, think of mindfulness as an innate superpower. It's like having metacognition, which means you have a heightened awareness of what you're thinking in the moment, as well as a heightened awareness of your understanding of what you're thinking and why. And it might seem impossible to stop thinking, just absolutely stop thinking, because after a lifetime of self-programming, we've come to believe that we are our thoughts and that our thoughts are accurate and that we can rely on them to guide us and to protect us. But those of us who've studied thinking, psychologists, meditators, they'd disagree. They'd say that we're not only not our thoughts, but we're not even basically thinkers. That's not even basically who we are as thinkers. Yes, we do think. We think a lot continually, but thinking is not our natural state. Our natural state is awareness, to see a thing as it is, to see a child, a little boy or a little girl in a grocery store, her in her little sweet skirt, him in his little osh by gosh jeans, and to see the cute way they walk and see how they look and how they touch and how curious they are and how they jump up and down for no reason at all other than just because they're alive. To see that and to be able to hold it as awareness, not have our thoughts ripping around in our minds. Oh my gosh, those are these kind of genes and blah, blah, blah. I wouldn't dress this kid like that. And I would, well, and all that thinking, no thinking, just awareness of that bird on the limb, just awareness of that eagle hanging on the wind, just awareness of that tree standing gently as it grows through eternity. Awareness of life, awareness of where you are right this minute, listening to me, awareness around you without thinking. That's being alive. That's being alive. When we're thinking, we're not here. We're somewhere else. We're in this computer, or this intellectual computer in our brain. We're just rattling around in there. So to be aware, that's what we're talking about, metacognition. There are two primary assets that are essential to what we're talking about, to mind growth, to expansion. The first of those is curiosity. Only when we're curious do we learn, do we see things new. If we're not curious, everything looks the same. I've said before, Mary and I know a man, or knew a man, he's passed now, back in Missouri, and his wife wanted him to come out to the West. And she said, there's beautiful mountain ranges. And he said, when you've seen one mountain, you've seen them all. Yeah, I think that's pretty stupid. But a lot of us are just that stupid because we're seeing one thing and continuing to believe that it's like all the other one things we've seen. Everything fits right into that same box. So when we're curious, we learn and grow. Because when we're curious, everything is new. How pitiful it is to see someone at any age who thinks they know the truth. They know the truth. They can't know the truth. They can't know, I can't know the truth. You can't know the truth because truth isn't a fixed thing. Truth is a process. It's a changing, evolving, growing sequence, a progression of awareness. Truth. I should be curious all the time. What's true now? What's true about that? What's true about this? What's true about Bob today? What's true about Mary today? What's true about Lael today? What's true today? What's different? It's a progression of awareness. And before our minds shut down, let me say this. Sure, truth is what is. Sure, truth is absolute, but that absolute is not static. It's changing, and it's change itself. Truth is a river. Curiosity says, let's observe. And the second asset that we have to gain in order to control our thinking is confusion. Confusion? What? Bob Trask is now suggesting that we become confused? Wow, yes, I am. Because the opposite of being confused is being certain. And truly, the only thing we can be certain of is our opinion. Everything else in life is evolving, changing, and growing. Embrace uncertainty. Embrace uncertainty and never be locked into your opinions and beliefs. And you'll be floating on that river of truth and discovering through your curiosity the marvels of life which unfold constantly. Today is not just a replication of yesterday, unless we're thinking the same way we were thinking yesterday. And we were locked into that automatic thinking. Wasn't it that great thinker Voltaire who said, doubt is not a pleasant state of mind, but certainty is absurd. Certainty is absurd. An author, Bruce Calvert, said, believing is easier than thinking. That's why so many believers are numerous and thinkers are seldom found. Have you watched professional surfers working their skills? Have you seen that? Have you watched, boy, you go on TV and watch surfers, they're amazing. When they get on a wave, they don't know what that wave's going to do. They think they know what it's going to do to some degree because that's why they chose that wave, but they have to be continually alert to the changes in that wave, changes in speed, changes in height, changes in slope. They're one with the board, but they must also be one with the water. And that water is in constant change. Let's be surfers, and the wave is life. Let's look for great waves to ride, avenues of life that'll challenge us and thrill us. And let's not be decided ahead of time. Let's ride the energy and let our natural intuitions guide us. Some of us on this call, some of us watching this are elderly or whatever people call elderly, but have more years behind us than others. And it's easy for us to say, well, at my age, certain things are true. I feel tireder and I sleep more and I don't have as much of an appetite and I get tired easy. All those are thinking processes. And there's some truth in them. That's absolutely right. There's some truth in them. But let's not let yesterday's truth be today's truth. Maybe I was tired yesterday. Does that mean I'll have to be tired today because I have to stay the same? One more effort here to convince you that confusion, married to curiosity, will set you free. Confusion, married to curiosity, will set you free. Indecisiveness. Indecisiveness. I know for those of us who spend our lives thinking, confusion seems like we're lacking in knowledge, we're lacking in clarity. But I hope today you'll see how those two elements, clarity and confusion, are pathways to enlightenment, to mental freedom, to having this smile on your face and feeling life around you again, instead of reliving the same old thoughts, the same old beliefs, the same old opinions. Aristotle said the mark of an educated mind is to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. To entertain a thought without accepting it. So don't believe everything you think. And in line with that think, I'd like to present a new word for us today. That word, metacognition. Get it in, let's put that in our dictionary. Let's keep it there. Metacognition. It might look like accelerated thinking because we're really paying attention, but it's truly not thinking at all. It's recognizing. So if you see a friend or someone you live with, if you see a friend or someone you live with, can you just recognize them? Not recognize them as they were yesterday or before, or the voice you know or the face you know, but see if there's something new there. Recognize the newness there. There's something new in there. That's not the same person they were yesterday. That river's not the same river it was yesterday. That tree is not the same tree it was yesterday. You're not the same you were yesterday. In knowing that we've lived forever and are still living forever, we realize that thinking strictly from our memory banks is really too limited for us, for those of us who are seeking the fullest and most rewarding lives. In metacognition, we see and we know that we're one with that wonderful, evolving reality that we call truth. In Vipassana, which is the oldest meditation practice on earth, we're taught to stop thinking about thinking. We sit quietly and we focus, excuse me, on some place in our body, the third eye, the heart, the crown chakra, or somewhere else. And that location eventually becomes our doorway into foreverness. As we meditate and focus on that, we go out of our bodies. But because the subconscious mind never rests, never shuts up, it's feeding our minds, our intellect, a thought a second, constantly leading our minds in the direction of memories, beliefs, opinions. So I'm meditating and all of a sudden I'm thinking about something and I'm thinking about something else and I'm not meditating or I'm just in my thoughts. Everything, I mean everything in the thinking process comes from memories. Everything comes from memories. And it's self-limiting thought, and it's erroneous thought. It's erroneous because it's based on what was rather than what is. It's based on trillions of memories and on their attached beliefs that have no relevance to our current situation or our current condition. Most people live with their memories deciding who they are and what they're going to be doing every single day. Nietzsche, Friedrich Wilhelm Nietzsche, great philosopher, said some people do not become thinkers simply because their memories are too good. Some people do not become thinkers simply because their memories are too good. In other words, they live in the soup. They made soup, they stirred all the carrots and potatoes and onions into it, and then they got into it and they were the soup. That's our thinking. And then our lives become replays, not of truth, but of memories, of opinions and beliefs. And why do we allow that? Because we've come to believe that our memories define us. They tell us who we are. That's our security blanket. That's called our ego. But that's not who we are. We can dare to be curious. We can dare to reach beyond the boundaries of our security. We can dare to be confused. We can dare to be asking questions. And then everything can be new for us. Bruce Calvert said, believing is easier than thinking. That's why there's so many more believers than thinkers. We're not our thoughts. We're not even our minds. Otherwise, who is the me that's saying my mind? If I say my mind, my brain, my body, my thinking process, who's saying that? Somebody's saying my. Who's saying that? That's the you. That's the indestructible and indescribable you. You can't know you. You can't see you. This I has never seen itself. It never will see itself. It can see everything, except it'll never see itself. And how come it can't see itself? Because it is, and you can't see yourself. You can't even know yourself because you are. But you can know experiences, you can know adventures, you can know around you what's happening, and you can be thrilled by life if life is new, if it's fresh, if it's offering you new flavors, new fragrances, new touch, new feelings. But we have to be curious. We have to be willing to not know. We have to be willing to not know, to be willing to be confused. Bill Gates said early in his career when he was hiring people for Microsoft, I'm looking for people who are comfortable being confused. What was he saying? I want people who come in here, they've got their minds already made up. We're discovering here. We're inventing. We're creating. We're reaching beyond the pale. We're reaching beyond anything we've ever known. We're trying to find things that have never existed before. You and I, let's do that in our little lives, in our simple lives. Let's trust that there's goodness in the world, and that of all the badness and all the evil, it's a scratch. It's a scratch on the outside. It has no effect on the reality. This world is filled with joy and beauty. And your life is a gift, and you are here. You are here to move forward and discover and find and think and think and think and think in new ways, brand new ways, ways you never thought before. As we get the brand new word metacognition, which means being aware, looking, always looking, always seeing, new, seeing anew, feeling anew, smelling anew, tasting anew, hearing anew, looking at somebody that you've known maybe for many, many, many years or known your whole life, and look at them, your son, your daughter, your husband, your wife, your mother, your daughter, your brother, your sister, somebody you've known forever. Look at them as though they're brand new and listen to their voice, listen to the timbre of their voice. And look around the room where you're in right now. Have you just been scanning over that stuff, the walls and the stuff around you, scanning over it because you already know what it looks like? You already know what it is. What if you don't? What if it's no? What if it's changing? It can change in you because your mind is changing and you are changing. It can come to you as something new, something fresh. Constantly, the gardens around us are growing and blossoming with new blossoms. Let's be aware of that. Let's be aware of that. We deserve to live new each day and each hour as a fresh adventure rather than the dusted up repeats of old home movies. Mark Twain said, "It ain't what you don't know that gets you in trouble. It's what you know for sure that ain't so." It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. And author William Lyon Phelps said, at a certain age, some people's minds close up and they live on their intellectual fat. So I'm going to finish today by just asking you to please, this week, see if you can back away from your thinking. Back away from the regular thinking, the habitual thinking. Back away from that and see if you can find a way to just be aware and let those awarenesses create new thought, new thinking. I think that you are a new person today. I think that you're fresh in this world. I think that as you go forward from here, you can find a reality that's brand new for you, and you can be a child again. Thank you for being with me. I'll see you next week.